I'm the second presenter for this session, Yanning Wang from Florida State University, USA. I will share my screen now to show you some PowerPoint slides. Today, my topic is Dreaming of the Female Immortal, Xishen's Prose and Poetry. Xishen was a woman writer from Renhe. She was the wife of Chen Kuilong, an influential late Qing official from the Guizhou area. Xishen left two extant collections, including Tingqiu Guan Shicao and Xieyuan Yincao. One outstanding characteristic of her collections is her constant and strong attention to the motif of the female immortal. This special attention is closely related to her family tragedy of losing two daughters, Xu's only biological children. Focusing on Xu's female immortal motif in her writings titled Hanzhen Tuyong, I will delineate the significant bonds between Taoism and literature in a Qing woman writer's poems and the prefaces attached to these poems. These works are included in her Ci poetry collection. Xu's Ci collection is titled Xieyuan Yincao. She had a harmonious relationship with Chen Kuilong, who shared Xu's interest in literature and her sorrow for losing their daughters. The years around 1900 witnessed tremendous social chaos caused by the Qing government, the 8 power-allied forces from the West, and the Boxer Rebellion. Her younger daughter, Changying, died as an infant, and her older daughter, Changwen, died as a teenager. Xu's Ci collection contains 5 zhuan plus a miscellaneous zhuan. This presentation will focus on the second zhuan, titled Hanzhen Tuyong. The Hanzhen Tuyong zhuan includes 20 sections of writings on Xu's older daughter, Changwen, as a female immortal, and sometimes also about the younger daughter, Changying. The creative process of these writings is unique. After Changwen's death, different members of the Chen Xu families dreamed of Changwen as a female immortal. Their dreams were first visualized in 20 paintings, and based on the paintings, Xishen composed her poems and prefaces. The poem sections are preceded by a long preface, and within each section, there is one or multiple poems with a short preface to contextualize the poems. It is not certain whether the paintings survived, and this presentation is based on Xu's written texts. In the long preface, Xu and the literati friends identify Changwen as a female immortal. She herself claims Changwen has come down to the earth as an immortal from the Grand Veil, Da Luo Tian, the highest heaven in Taoism. Yu Yue, the famous intellectual and a relative of Xishen, inscribes on the paintings and calls Changwen a real immortal. Second, she elaborates on the extraordinary death of her daughter by emphasizing her body characteristics after death. It reads, after death, extraordinary fragrance filled the room, and as if alive, her face looked supple and radiant, as smooth as jade. Furthermore, the fragrance was so strong that besides Changwen herself, Xu herself, many others at the sickbed also smelled it. It even went so far to the extent that fragrance attracted butterflies at the time of the burial. In pre-modern texts, when an author describes the death of an extraordinary person, the body fragrance, which is associated with religious significance, is often mentioned. A typical example can be found in the biography of the late Ming teenage poet Ye Xiaoluan. Her mother Shen Yixiu elaborates on the corpse, including describing it as fragrant body even on the 7th day after death. In Xu Xishen's long preface, Changwen's fragrance attracted many butterflies. Scholars have pointed out that in Chinese and East Asian cultures, the butterfly is seen as a symbol related to human souls and carries multifaceted meanings such as immortality. Next, I will discuss the 20 sections. The basic structure for each section is one short preface followed by 1 or 2 poems, mostly Ci poems and sometimes Shi poems. The structure of the set of writings bears several outstanding characteristics. First, it involves a community of family members as the dreamers or witnesses. The poeticized dreams reveal various perspectives of a community of dreamers, including Chen Huilong, the father, Xu Xishen, the mother, Xu's nephew's wives, and the maids of the family. Second, from start to finish, the set embodies a typical pattern in Taoist hagiographies, where the protagonist's illness is cured through the Taoist practice. Although in reality, Changwen did not recover, Xu's literary transformation of her afterlife experience indicates a cure of her mundane illness. Although sometimes mixed with Buddhist images, the Taoist images are dominant in the set. Take the ending of the set as an example. There, Changwen finally chooses to settle in the immortal world and ascends up to heaven in her Taoist cloak. Next, I will explore a few examples to show the different perspectives of father and the mother and related perceptions from the other dreamers. Such an exploration will demonstrate the gender differences and the process of Xu Xishen as mother using literature and Taoist images to handle her own life crisis. First, we will look at the father Chen Huilong's perspectives. Xu's writing includes 4 dreams of Chen. These works reveal Changwen's transformation from a human woman to an immortal man. It must be noted, in all these four sections, Chen as the dreamer has 0 to little direct communications with the female immortal. Observing Changwen in the distance, Chen finds their encounters sad and strange. For example, in this first poem, she sits among a group of female immortals, but then before the father can have the chance to communicate, she disappears in the name of Xigu, washing bones. The term Xigu can be interpreted in 2 ways. First, Xigu is most likely equal to Xisui, washing the bone marrow. It refers to a procedure in the newly promoted immortal's Taoist cultivation. Leaving the human world not long ago, the new immortal still holds some impure substance from the mundane, and therefore needs to wash them off to further the cultivation. Second, this mention of the specific ritual is also connected to the death ritual of Xigu Zang, popular among both the Han and other ethnic communities, including the Guizhou area, Chen Huilong's hometown. We can take the Guizhou Miao ethnic group as an example to understand the second funeral tradition of washing bones. The Miao ethnic group believes that in order to ensure the spiritual eternity, the rotten flesh should be eliminated as soon as possible, and therefore it is necessary to have a second funeral. That is, the family of the dead person will open the tomb once per several years to clean the bones and put them back again. This can be done multiple times to ensure the cleanliness of the bones, for such a purity is not only beneficial to the deceased person's spiritual eternity, but also will ensure the well-being of the living family members. In Chen's second dream, Changwen has lost the womanly manners by walking too fast. She vanishes into an inner room wearing a purple gold crown and holding a flute. In Chen's third dream, Changwen has completely changed into a man in man's clothing, and it is even hard for the father to recognize her. In Chen's last dream, in a splendid view of banners and other immortal insignia, Changwen is leaving for the immortal world in a cloak trimmed with crane's plumes, he chang, a typical appearance of a Taoist. Similar to women's inner alchemy, where a female practitioner has to lose the female physical characteristics before becoming capable of engaging in Taoist practices. From the perspective of the father Chen Huilong, the female immortal gradually changes into a man, confirming the fact of leaving the mundane and engaging in the Taoist immortality. So far, I have discussed the father's perspectives. Then how about the mother Xu Xishen's perspectives? It must be pointed out that among the 20 sections of various dreams, only number 15 talks about Xu's own dream. In this section, she claims that 2 young immortal women came down to the courtyard, and both resembled her older daughter Changwen. Since her younger daughter Changying died as infant, it is reasonable for Xu to imagine her grown-up look similar to her teenage daughter Changwen. The fact that her dream and the corresponding writing concern two daughters, not just the teenager Changwen, distinguishes Xu's writing from the popular obsession with the idea of talented women dying young, as shown in Ye Xiaolan's case. In other words, she emphasizes her deep affection as mother for both of her daughters, with or without literary talent, instead of merely imitating a cultural ideal. Different from the father Chen Huilong's little to no direct communication with the female immortal in his dreams, the mother-daughter close relationship has not changed. Upon seeing the two immortals, she responded, "Thinking they were my own daughters, I then patted them with my hands." She is clearly aware of the death of her daughters, but still chooses to blur the boundary to express her motherly love. She uses the Taoist concepts and images to create a literary continuity to handle the real-life tragedy. This continued intimacy also exists in the encounters between Changwen and the wives of Xu's nephews, which emphasizes the female bonds. For example, in this poem, the dream took place on the 7th day of the 7th lunar month, transforming a union between male-female lovers into a meeting between the female immortal and her cousin. They walked and chatted as they did when Changwen was alive. The meeting time on the Double Sevens festival is related to Changwen's real-life experience. Changwen always enjoyed the festive events, and right before her death on the 22nd day of the 6th lunar month in 1905, she very much looked forward to the festival. This was because a couple of her cousins came to Henan to visit. This kind of continued intimate and pleasant companionship at a slow pace forms a sharp contrast between male and female dreamers. Although Xu's direct discussion of the mother image is scarce, the mother image is prevalent through the dreams of the other women in the community. For example, the writings about her maid's dreams constantly describe the mother-daughter relationship from their perspectives and demonstrate some unique characteristics. For instance, among as many as 5 poems of Chun Yan, Xu's young maid, Chun Yan constantly observes Changwen's filial piety mixed with her imagination of a Buddhist deity. In the first poem, Changwen told Chun Yan she came down to comfort her sad mother, Xishen. In the corresponding poem, Xishen further emphasizes this sorrow as a mutual feeling between mother and daughter. In the next examples, Changwen is portrayed as a deity, a Buddhist deity, whom the maid can only admire from afar. Such Buddhist imagery appears more obvious in the maid's dreams. In Xu's writings, the school and lineage of Taoism is not specified, and it is often mixed with other kinds of religious beliefs, such as Buddhism and astrology. Such a hybridity echoes the general tendency of Qing Taoism when the institutional Taoism declined and the Taoist practices became more scattered lay practices. Several sections describe Chun Yan's observation of Changwen arranging private meetings with her mother Xishen. Such meetings emphasize the physical closeness of mother and daughter by placing them in the same room or 2 rooms next to each other. Take the last line on this slide as an example. Changwen advises the maid Chun Yan to leave, while she herself accompanies her mother in private. Such inclusion and exclusion from the maid's perspective highlight the special relationship between Xishen and her daughter. In conclusion, in the Han Zhen Tuyong writing, Xishen tries to make sense of the older daughter Changwen's death. The text portrays Changwen as a female immortal who still interacts with the family members, either in the human world or the immortal world, and who eventually decides to settle in the immortal world. The poems and attached prefaces create a story that embodies a typical pattern in a Taoist hagiography where the protagonist is cured after suffering from illness for an extensive period of time. The scarcity of the mother's own dreams embodies the pain of having to accept the death of Xu's daughter. Yet the prevalent indirect description of the close mother-daughter relationship represents gradual acceptance of the daughter's death and the confirmation of the eternal emotional ties. She claims the Hanzhen paintings were intended to commemorate her daughter's filial piety. However, the prose and the poetry based on the dreams and the paintings portray this feeling as the mutual affection between mother and daughter. The usage of Taoist concepts and images is not for spreading Taoist teachings, but for literary creation and emotion management. The multiple perspectives of a community of dreamers and Xi's writings in prosaic and poetic genres shed light on our understanding of how a late Qing woman writer found unique expression in Taoism and literature while meeting her own physical and spiritual challenges. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your hard work and for the amazing presentation. As the time is running out and the meeting can end like anytime soon, there won't be time for discussion, but I would once again like to thank you for your amazing presentation. I would like to remind all participants that we're expecting you tomorrow at 3 p.m. Sofia time. And we're absolutely looking forward to seeing you again.
Thank you also from me, from Sofia. Bye-bye, everybody. See you tomorrow at 3 p.m. If Livia wants to add something before we are finishing. No. So thank you. Have a good time. See you tomorrow.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.